Hello there, viewers, and welcome to Pop Profiles. Now on this series, we've covered the lives of some of the biggest female artists in the music world today, from Adele to Lady Gaga to Rihanna. But on today's show, we'll be looking back at the career of an artist who was an inspiration to every soul singer around, the incomparable Whitney Houston.
Whitney is a true artist, a true, like, not diva in the diva sense, but diva in the sense of, you know, exciting, beautiful energy.
She deserved all the plaudits and awards that she got. I do think Whitney's voice stands up to the greats, the Aretha Franklins, the Etta Jameses.
The thing about Whitney is when she smiles at you, you can't take her eyes off her. I mean, that's the thing about anybody who's a star. She already had screen presence.
Whitney Elizabeth Houston was born in Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. She had a very musical family, with mother Cissy Houston being a prominent gospel singer and cousin Dionne Warwick being a superstar in her own right. Added to that, she also had none other than Aretha Franklin providing inspiration and support. So it seems she was destined for a life as a singer. But it didn't start out that way. Whitney briefly tried another career before making her way in music.
It's a lesser-known fact that she was actually a model before she became a recording artist. She was in Glamour magazine, she was in all sorts of magazines.
But as is the case with so many artists such as Aerosmith, Janis Joplin, Earth, Wind and Fire, and many more, it all changed when Clive Davis came on the scene. He had heard about Cissy Houston's talented daughter.
Clive Davis is a huge figure in Whitney's career, from the very beginning to the very, very end. He's the guy that first signed her. He spotted her singing in a nightclub, and they got into talks, and he offered her a worldwide record contract.
He didn't take much convincing to kind of get her involved in what he was doing, and her career just blossomed from there.
Clive Davis has been absolutely instrumental in Whitney Houston's career. I mean, he found her, he signed her, he backed her all the way. He's really kind of been almost a father figure to her in a way.
With Clive Davis's support, Whitney started to record her self-titled debut album. It was an instant success, with all the music critics being won over by her exceptional vocals on tracks such as Saving All My Love for You. We'll be making love the whole night through. But the age of the music video had begun, and Whitney's team knew that she had to be seen as well as heard.
So in 1985, I was in LA, and I bumped into a guy called Peter Barron who worked at Arista Records, and he had a cassette, and he said, listen, we've got this artist that Clive has signed. He's got great hopes for her. She's very beautiful, and we wondered if you'd be interested in making a video with her. Her name's Whitney Houston, and the track's called How Will I Know?
Favorite Whitney Houston song is How Will I Know? And that is because of my mom playing it in our basement, doing aerobics every day. I was brainwashed. But she picked a good song to imprint on me forever.
But her first video would turn out to be quite a fearful undertaking for Whitney.
It was actually quite tricky to get her out of a Winnebago at first, and I wasn't sure what that was all about. But the truth is that she couldn't dance. So I just said, look, you don't have to worry about any of this. The name of the game today is just to have as much fun as possible, to enjoy yourself and do what you do best, which is to sing, and let us do all the other stuff. And I think Whitney really enjoyed herself, and I think it shows in the video. On that first day, she sort of said, I've seen the videos you've done with Tina, and especially the video you did with Aretha Franklin, Free Way of Love. I really liked that, it's really good. And I said, well, thank you very much. She said, did you know that she is my godmother? And I said, you're joking? I said, no, she's my godmother. And it was, so there's a sort of synchronicity there, sort of destiny or something. There's a line in the song where she says, I'm asking you because you know about these things. It's like, is that a best friend, or could it be somebody, a mentor, somebody older? I thought, why don't we put Aretha in there? Because I'm sure at some point in their lives, you know, Aretha has given Whitney Houston some advice. I'm sure she's given her plenty of advice. So I just said to Whitney, why don't you just turn around and in post-production we'll put a shot of Aretha in the background, and it's like, she loved it because it's, you know, a godmother.
I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way.
People were actually starting to see Whitney as the next generation's version of Aretha, as the hits just kept on coming from her first album. How Will I Know took the top spot on the charts in the US, as did the follow-up single, Greatest Love of All.
Her first album was wildly successful. She won a Grammy in 1987. You know, she came out of the gates like fires blazing, and from then on I think people just knew that they had a star.
Whitney's first album was pretty much wall-to-wall hits. And I think what really impressed people was just the quality and tone of her voice, and that was really arresting. And she was just so fresh-faced, and the way she delivered it was really genuine, and that really struck a chord with people.
Her debut album was an enormous success as far as debut albums go. You know, her vocal range thoroughly impressed the entire industry. She really made people stand and notice her on vocal ability alone. And she had some hits from that album as well, and it set her apart from the other people in the industry at the time.
Given the huge success of the first, people were expecting a lot from Whitney's second album. And as always, Clive Davis was by her side and pushing her to achieve the best.
I want you to go back and I want you to do this one ad-lib that's, you know, and I'm like, what do you know about ad-libs? And he, and you know what? And he's listened to me for so many years. He knows my voice so well that he is, I can't begin to tell you how right he is at times. Yeah, right, he is like, oh God, he's right, I gotta go back in there, I gotta do that again, yeah.
The first single, I Wanna Dance With Somebody, would top the charts and has remained one of her most popular hits.
I think that I Wanna Dance With Somebody is absolutely, hands down, her most fun party song ever. I mean, you can't go to a bad wedding in Omaha and not hear that at the reception.
I think my favorite Whitney Houston song has to be I Wanna Dance With Somebody, just because it was that perfect, pure pop song of the 80s, where everyone was wearing leg warmers and dancing like lunatics, and she sounds incredible. She's beaming in the video. It's just definitely one of her top hits.
For the video for I Wanna Dance With Somebody, Whitney chose to work again with Bryant Grant, who had directed her first major video, How Will I Know?
The track's called I Wanna Dance With Somebody, and we knew Whitney wasn't a great dancer. So how could we do this? I mean, the track demanded that you had dancers in it. So we kind of did the thing we do best, we disguised it, basically. I said, look, it's the same story. We'll surround you with all this fireworks and you do what you do best. And the most important thing is that you reflect what the song's all about, which is what she does best.
But Whitney's mentor wasn't quite so sure about the result.
I suddenly find myself on a phone call to Clive Davis, the Clive Davis, who discovered Whitney in the first place. I had quite a robust discussion with Clive, and he was saying it's not quite sure it's the direction that we want Whitney to go in. I always remember saying to Clive in that conversation that here was a beautiful 20-year-old, 21-year-old woman having one success with the first album. She's going to be a star. You've got lots of time to create something else with her. This is the time that she should just be having fun, and that's basically what that song's all about. I Want to Dance With Somebody. So Clive came back and he said, look, we've got this idea. Whitney's on stage singing a live performance. She comes off stage and she's slightly melancholy and she has a vision, and the vision is the music video. And that's how Clive rationalized getting from reality into a sort of fantasy video.
It seemed as if everything Whitney was releasing would go to #1, and that continued with So Emotional. But this time, Whitney went with a director known for his work with slightly more aggressive artists, Wayne Isham.
did a series of videos that had nothing to do with what I feel was my, core, in my heart audience, metal. But it does make a difference because I learned that, of course, Whitney rocks. What's great about working with Whitney is that she was excited about the opportunity or the thought process of doing something a little more raw than the pop, video she had done before. What was so emotional was exactly what it's supposed to be, is a live, raw experience. I think she really enjoyed the concept of me setting up this gig, people waiting outside, everybody excited, people showing up with their banners, which she hadn't had her shows, and her just going for it. It's like, to me, going, go, just go for it.
Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, Whitney makes her mark at the Super Bowl and delivers a huge comeback album. By 1990, Whitney was undoubtedly the biggest female star in the world, with almost every one of her songs reaching the top of the charts. And that meant something in those days. Her third album, I'm Your Baby Tonight, was another hit, but Whitney really captured the public's imagination when she agreed to perform the national anthem at the Super Bowl. And it's fair to say, she set a new benchmark.
I think Whitney's performance of the national anthem at the Super Bowl was so arresting because she was just kind of there in a tracksuit, and she was singing actually quite a difficult song, but just doing it so effortlessly, and it was just coming out of her like there was just no problems hitting those high notes, and also just with real serious emotion. And yeah, I'm not surprised that it then entered the charts subsequently because of her performance.
I think that her Super Bowl performance was so well received because A, that song is the most difficult song technically to sing. B, Whitney is the best singer technically. And that was a moment where they both matched up. You have the best singer, the hardest song, she killed it, the biggest TV audience, everything came together. It was a great moment.
I'm not a sentimental person particularly, but that was a very, very moving moment. And for anybody to get up, when Muhammad Ali got up and did the Olympic thing, the whole of that country was looking at that young lady, and she touched everybody. So it's a remarkable achievement.
Whitney was on a roll. And speaking of roles, a dream one came up when a film called The Bodyguard was about to be produced. Originally created for Steve McQueen and Diana Ross to star in, Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston were the perfect pair to finally get the movie made after sitting in development for so long.
I think Whitney was absolutely at her peak when she was in The Bodyguard. She was already a huge pop star, but suddenly she was kind of luminous on the big screen, and she was in Kevin Costner's arms, and it was a runaway success. Everybody was queuing up in the theaters. The song was racing up the charts. It was just the pinnacle for her.
The film was a big success on its own, but it was the soundtrack that really took the top prize, selling an astounding 45 million copies worldwide, thanks to monster hits such as I Will Always Love You, a cover of a Dolly Parton song no less.
Dolly Parton's song I Will Always Love You was really, really taken to its fullest with Whitney, because she just, in those moments where kind of the music comes down and she really lets it soar, you just get goose pimples. It really is an astonishing vocal performance from her.
And still remains like the most emotional song. It brings tears to my eyes when I listen to it.
I actually really enjoyed her performance in that. I found it a fantastic movie, and that soundtrack is one of the greatest movie soundtracks of all time. The Bodyguard really, really was the peak of her career, and it was sad that that didn't carry on.
It really didn't continue at the same level. After The Bodyguard, Whitney's output dropped as she was dealing with drug issues and her volatile marriage to her husband, Bobby Brown. She still appeared in 2 more movies during this time, Waiting to Exhale and The Preacher's Wife. But it had been 6 years since Whitney's last studio album. However, when My Love Is Your Love was released, Whitney was definitely back with a bang.
But it's okay, I'm gonna make it anyway. Pack your bag up and leave.
I think My Love Is Your Love is a very important record for Whitney because that's the record that brought her more to an urban market. And at the time that record came out, that music was certainly taking over the airwaves. And I think that she had to go something a little more edgy, and that was a very good strategic move for her.
It was definitely the best album that she made towards the end. Like, she was hitting it in a new way, and she was kind of embracing that kind of end of the 90s R&B vibe. And it's not right, but it's okay. It's a really, really killer tune.
Whitney followed up My Love Is Your Love with Just Whitney in 2002, but then had a long break from music as she dealt with her divorce from Bobby Brown and took care of their daughter, Christina. It finally took old mentor Clive Davis to bring her back into the studio for what turned out to be her final album, I Look to You, and her last major single, $1 Million Bill.
I was very, very heartened when I heard $1 Million Bill. I thought it was a real return to form, super sassy, and I was, rejuvenated by it.
I heard an original demo of $1 Million Bill when Whitney and her label were working on the I Look to You record, and I knew from the get-go that that song was going to be massive. And it was written by Alicia Keys and Swizz Beatz, which I thought was pretty cool. It felt fresh, but not trying too hard. She sounded good. I thought it was a perfect look for her to come back after all that time.
I just had a different plan at this time of my life. My daughter was about, I think, 12 going on 13. I had moved out to LA and I just rented a little house up there in the hills of Laguna, and I kind of got comfortable with being left alone, you know what I'm saying, with just being a mom who was her daughter after school and who would pick her up from school. And, you know, I liked that vibe, I liked the feeling, because I never really had the opportunity. I was always traveling with her all the time, so I just had my own idea of what I wanted my life to be like at that point in time. And then he called me one day and he says, it's time. And I said, yeah, time for what? And he said, it's time for you to come back and sing for us again. And I thought, Clive, it's not really where I'm at. He said, well, I want to hear it. Your mom wants to hear it. My mom was calling me saying, you know, Mommy, my mom was calling me too. And people was asking me, like, you know, if I go out to a store, when am I going to hear you sing again, you know? And I just thought, wow, that's very, very, very special. And I feel humbled to be, asked to do it again and to want to be heard again.
But it wasn't to last. Whitney was never able to fully break free of her addiction and died on February 11th, 2012. But what legacy does she leave behind?
Whitney's legacy will be her incredible vocal cords. I would hope that Whitney's legacy would be a back catalog full of really, really great hits, really fun soul pop hits. And I would hope that the tragic way her life ended wouldn't overshadow her body of work.
I think the legacy that Whitney leaves is of somebody who was able to take the soul genre and absolutely make it her own. I always felt that the only other person who owned it better than anybody else was Aretha. Nobody sounded like Aretha. For years, still nobody sounds like Aretha. And I think Whitney appealed to R&B fans, to black fans, to soul fans. She appealed to pop fans. She appealed to middle-of-the-road fans. I suspect she even appealed to country fans. I mean, Dolly Parton wrote one of her greatest hits.
I certainly listened to all of her songs during my childhood. The songs have touched everybody. The fact that, you know, she got her start with gospel music, and that's something I'll always remember when I listen to her. You know, it kind of rings throughout all of her songs.
I just want to be recognized for my music and for what it does and how it inspires people and how it makes people feel, as opposed to talk about Whitney all the time, you know, kind of thing. That's all done over with. It's passe, and I would just like to be, you know, recognized for my music.
And so she will.
Come on and say